So I went through the program modifications and testing accommodations that we generally see and kind of ranked them into the most common, fairly common, and then what's covered by the SPED team. So for you, the most common program modifications you will see is a special seating arrangement. Generally, you have to read the recommendation section, but it'll say either near the source of instruction, meaning near where the teacher usually teaches, or needed seated near a role model. Both options are, you just have to look and decide which one fits best for each student. Check for understanding, also fairly common. This one comes up a lot with parents. When a kid, you're not checking with them, and checking with them can be having them repeat the directions to you, checking in with them at the beginning of independent tasks to make sure that they understand what they need to be doing. That's also specified in the IEP in the recommendation section. Refocusing and redirection and on task focusing prompts are fairly similar in the sense that those are the kids that struggle to maintain focus. So that will also be specified as to what strategies work best with them. I have found that weaving a student's name into my lesson will redirect them. If while I'm teaching, walking around the room, going to stand right next to the student that is not on task, even just as simple as a tap on the shoulder, a tap on the desk, something along those lines. Some fairly common program modifications that you will most likely see. Sometimes a structured classroom is one. I can actually make that into chunking larger assignments into smaller assignments, which I would say as middle school teachers we do anyway. Directions read, a lot of times it will say when the student requests. Wait time and auditory processing time for those students that struggle with auditory processing or have an central auditory processing disorder. It could be as simple as just on your, in your hand, tapping all 5 fingers to wait for 5 seconds before you call on a student to respond. Because a kid that struggles with auditory processing really needs to take that time to process every part of the question you just asked. So give them the time to do that, and they will most likely be able to respond accurately. But we find as teachers, we tend to ask a question and quick, the first person that raises their hand, you call on them and the lesson moves on. So just try to keep that in mind. Directions repeated. Again, a lot of us do this anyway because students need directions repeated numerous times. If you are having students write a paragraph or longer, giving them access to a graphic organizer to organize their ideas. Any sort of calculations or anything that is related to numbers, many will have use of a calculator. Many will have copy of class notes, but it's usually specified when not posted on Schoology. That's been a nice transition for us since we are so digital that as long as you are posting the notes on Schoology, there's no need to print off class notes for students. And on occasion, you will see a student have waive spelling requirements, which again, we rarely do. But if you do have a test where spelling is it is a spelling test, you can't, the student can't lose points for misspelling a word. Sometimes you will also see that Academic Study Center, support for organization, modified curriculum and grading, and reteaching. Those are usually tasks that are covered by the special education team within that Academic Study Center. Let's see. The next section are the testing accommodations, another area that you would be responsible for if you are giving a test. Many students will have extended time times 1.5, meaning that if a test is 30 minutes, they would get time and a half, meaning that they would have 45 minutes to complete the test. Extended time times 2, again, if it was a 30-minute test, the student would get an hour. Some students will have special location for all tests, so they need to complete the test outside of the classroom right from the beginning. Some will have special location to accommodate their extended time. So a student, it will always specify that the student can begin the test in the classroom and then finish the test, usually during their academic study center later in the day. Some students have special location just for tests that are longer than 15 minutes. So if you're doing a quick 5-question quiz, they can stay in the classroom. But if you're doing a longer unit test, then they would have to use their special location or alternate location. And then many students have tests read. Again, since we're such a Schoology heavy district, that when a Schoology is available to a student, you can have the test read feature turned on for all students, and then they have access to listening to all the questions and the passages. Some fairly common Testing accommodations you may see on task focusing prompts. Again, that's if you notice a kid that's struggling to stay focused and attend to the test, just giving them that redirection. Sometimes they need preferential seating. These two sometimes go hand in hand, where you have a student that needs to sit near a teacher while taking a test to provide those on task focusing prompts. Directions repeated, access to a word processor for all written work, directions simplified, use of a calculator, text to speech and speech to text. So, text to speech is that also similar to the test read, that you can have the computer read the test to them. Speech to text is for kids that have voice typing, have access to writing a paragraph or longer. They can voice type and then go back and edit. Directions read and wave spelling you may also see. Again, if you have questions, you need to go just talk to your student's case manager or any of the special education team.